Hello folks, today coming to you from my den and with a special guest. This is Captain Stubbs. This is not my cat, but he may occasionally make an appearance. So I wanted to introduce him because he's very excited that I'm in the floor. Okay, so today, or this week, as we deal with the hurricane and the ongoing pandemic and everything that's crazy outside, I wanted to give y'all just a little bit of an introduction to some of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with this semester, like content-wise. So just kind of thinking through, like, what is a witch? What is a witch? And, like, who's asking that question, who's deciding those answers, that kind of thing. So we will be reading texts from thousands of years, encompassing thousands of years and many, many, many different geographic locations. So I want to impress upon you right now, and I'm going to keep reiterating it because it's a big thing that I'm really strongly an advocate of. People have always been people. The past isn't a monolith. Things are going to be different. Traditions vary in different places at different times. Individual beliefs and opinions can vary greatly, like, within those spaces. So, I mean, I study medieval England. Like, you're gonna have some people who believe in witches and some people who don't. Like, and then everything else in between. The traditions in the Irish and British material that you're reading this week will vary greatly from the ancient Greek traditions we'll be working with next week, or the African and African American traditions we'll be working with later on in the semester. So, just for this week, our popular stereotypes of witchcraft usually come from a really Eurocentric lens. You think witch trials. You think witch trials, right? In England and in Salem. We're going to talk about that stuff, but there's other stuff too, right? So, like, contrary to popular belief, for much of history, most of history, because people have always been people, there have been, like, a lot of socially accepted ways for a woman to independently support herself, or to support her family, including brewing, midwifery, medicine, as well as, like, trades like blacksmithing. And so, like, you think about the characteristics of those trades: mixing potions over bubbling cauldrons, mixing poultices to cure disease, or to prevent pregnancy, or to eliminate a pregnancy, or to, like, speed up a birth or make a birth easier. A lot of those things, those ideas get translated into, like, what we would think of as, like, witchcraft, right? And that is not an accident. Around the time of the late Renaissance and so the early modern period, the Enlightenment, in Europe, women were explicitly excluded from these trades by changes to laws and policies. It was illegal for a woman to practice medicine because it was illegal to practice medicine in Europe without having attended a medical school. And those medical schools wouldn't accept women. So these women who continued to practice these trades were villainized, punished if they were caught, and sort of villainized in popular media. So a big thing with, like, thinking about what witchcraft is, like, who's doing the defining of, like, what is a witch? Who is a witch? Sir, you're in the way. Who's a witch? What's a witch? Sorry. So who's doing the deciding, and what are their motives for making that decision? So a lot of times, especially if you go into, like, the early modern period, which was 1600s-ish and after, Women accused of doing witchcraft are often women who are exercising their own autonomy or helping others to do so. So in literature, which is what we're mostly going to be discussing in this class, though it does not exist in a cultural vacuum, which is why we have to talk about both, witches and magic ladies often appear in narratives discussing power and agency, because that's kind of the central issue, right? So, different kinds of power. Royal power, power in romantic or domestic spheres, whatever. Think like Macbeth and the witches, right? We're going to read Macbeth, but the witches are there because it's this whole question of power. So, in your readings this week, you'll see two powerful magical ladies. Consider as you read a few things, like, would you classify them as witches? Would you classify them as something else? Goddesses, demons, monsters, like fairies. And there isn't, a lot of times these lines aren't strictly defined, especially in medieval texts like this. And as you read The Wife of Bath's Tale, keep this sovereignty of Erin in mind. Keep the lady from the adventures of the sons of Enokid Bugmuddin. I think I had to really try on that one. So remember, so both of these traditions, these are going to be very similar stories, but sort of two ends of a spectrum of like time with this tradition. They're part of the Lady Sovereignty, Loathly Lady trope. So this is something that's in lots of Irish literature, Old and Middle Irish and Middle English storytelling, especially in the north of England, which has more ties to Ireland. And these stories are tales in which the hero is tested by a usually old and monstrously ugly lady to gauge his worth. And when he succeeds in giving her what she wants, he is rewarded by her turning super hot and beautiful. And often these tales address questions of power, in terms of both gendered power dynamics and in terms of legal, royal, sovereign authority over a nation or over a group of people. So I want you to remember, as we do this, that sovereignty, as we go through this week, sovereignty has a few different meanings. It can mean independence and autonomy, but it also refers to the right to rule or the right to make decisions for a society or for a group of people in a culture. So, a little bit, real quick, while I keep the kitten distracted, about the adventures of the sons of Econid Bugmuddin. This is a really early version of that Lady Sovereignty trope, in which the true king is tested and authorized by his enthusiastic willingness to obey the monstrous old woman, to not only kiss her, but sleep with her. And he's not only rewarded by her transformation into a beautiful woman, he's rewarded, and his descendants are rewarded, with kingship of Ireland. And I want you to note that it's in her power to bestow that. Additionally, in The Wife of Bath's Tale, which you're reading for Friday, oh, by the way, Wife of Bath's Tale. So on the website the link that I provided you, you start out with the prologue. I think the first 850 lines are prologue. You don't have to read that. You can, but you don't have to. Scroll down to the tale. It starts at line 8, maybe 880 something. Anyway, the central question of The Wife of Bath's Tale is, what do women most desire? And the knight who has to answer this question seems like he's doomed to fail until he runs into this monstrously ugly old lady who provides him with the answer. Women must desire sovereignty. You can see how these tales are related. And when he marries the Loathly Lady, and when he grants her like this sovereignty over her own appearance, he's rewarded with a beautiful and hot wife to like be happily married to. So in both of these tales, kind of take note of power exchanges, both like in terms of gender and in terms of like sovereign authority, by which I mean like the authority to lead a nation or a group of people. So, go forth, stay safe in this hurricane time, drink lots of water, stay inside, wash your hands. Here, I'll give you, for watching till the end, another little bit of kitten. Captain and I hope you stay safe and have a good week. All right, bye guys.